welcome to the House of Wellness, Darcy, Jack, Nick. Great to see you as always. And February is all about the heart. Last week it was about heart health, and this week it's all about love.
Oh, well, florists and fancy restaurants are busy preparing themselves for the most romantic day of the year, but others are rolling their eyes at the commercialisation of Valentine's Day. I don't mind it. My husband always brings home a rose for each of my little kids, and I think it's really sweet.
Beautifully done, Michael. Well played to you. But it's got some serious traction, Jack. Over 1 billion messages will be sent on the 14th of Feb, and over $1 billion worth of chocolate will be purchased.
Well, every day is a good day to celebrate love and eat chocolates, don't you think?
Agree.
But today we meet the mum who gave her son the most loving gift of all, a donor organ.
And Heinzie tunes into the healing power of celestial singing.
And this is pretty cute, actually. We discover why pups also benefit from bedtime stories.
First up, I'm going to take a look at a condition that affects 1 in 10 Aussies. Tinnitus is that constant ringing, pulsating, whooshing noise that some people feel in their ears constantly. It's actually quite hard to describe, so I thought we'd play you a little bit. Let's have a listen.
Yeah, not exactly music to my ears as a tinnitus sufferer. And as you heard there, the sounds vary from person to person. Tinnitus best described as coming from inside the head rather than outside. And because it can so often be associated with deafness, it's really debilitating for someone who has it all the time.
And Nick, one of those 1 in 10 Aussies is Australian cricket legend Justin Langer. JL is one of the greatest players and coaches of all time, but he suffered so badly from it, he thought about giving it all away in recent times. Let's have a listen to the great Justin Langer. JL, thanks for taking the time today. It's good to see you.
It's nice to be talking to you, as always.
2019 World Cup Tour of England, life is going pretty well for Justin Langer. Can you talk me through what happened at that time?
It was the day before the first World Cup game against Bangladesh. And I woke up in the morning and it was the most weird thing. You know, in Star Wars, when the sabers, zoom, 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 you hear this noise in my left ear. I kept getting this saber noise in my left ear, and I've never experienced it before. I thought, that's really weird. And then it turned into ringing cell, like a screaming noise, and it's called, what I've discovered, it's called tinnitus. And I had no idea what tinnitus was, but now it's literally constant in my ear, Das, and it's quite debilitating, actually.
Well, it sounds like it. Lightsabers going off in your ear. Were there any other symptoms, JL, that knocked you around at the time?
It felt like, I explained it felt like I was seasick and drunk every waking minute, and it went for about 18 months. And I was in a high pressure role as the head coach of the Australian cricket team. And one of the worst things about it, and some of the viewers might get this as well, is that not only did I have the symptoms, and I had to put the mask on every day as well, because you got to act like, oh, everything's going okay. And then you get back to your room each night and you're literally flat. You're just flat.
You're one of the toughest, most resilient people I reckon I've ever met. I've seen you stare down West Indian fast bowlers without any form of fear. Is this at the top of the tree for you, that 18 months where you had vertigo and you described those physical and mental symptoms? How bad did it get?
The thing about if you face fast bowling, or you jump in the boxing ring, or you have different fears, you've got some control over it. So as a batsman, I just watch the ball. And if I got hit, it means I took my eye off the ball. Or if you've got some control. Whereas this, I didn't know what it was, Das. And that was the thing that hurt the most. And then I saw some amazing people. Ear specialists. I met this extraordinary neurologist who basically changed my life for me. And then I also got linked then with Ear Science Institute Australia, and they've been brilliant. I started wearing a hearing aid, and it made a huge difference. All of a sudden, I'm hearing things I didn't even know. I've become a better dad. I've become a better husband, because for years, my kids are going, Dad, you don't listen to us. I'm not listening because I can't hear.
Caught up with you a few years ago on the show, and you've been generous enough to share this story with us. Has it changed in the last few years, JL, with tinnitus at all, or is it still the same?
I think I've learned to live with it. If I concentrate on it, I can hear ringing in my left ear right now. So I get on with my day and blah, blah, blah. It's like anything. It's like if I concentrate on the air conditioning, I can hear the air conditioning. If I concentrate on the birds outside, I can hear the birds. If I concentrate on the tinnitus, I can hear the tinnitus. I'm one of the lucky ones, Darcy. I hear horror stories about people put their head down at night and the tinnitus is so loud it keeps them awake at night. So I'm being lucky. I got it reasonably early. I know what it is. I don't panic anymore. And that's often the knowledge of knowing what's going on alleviates a lot of the issues from my experience.
Well, Jack, I do suffer from tinnitus, and I don't know what would be worse, though, tinnitus or vertigo. Do you suffer from either?
No, I'm very lucky not to. But as we've heard from Dr. Nick, tinnitus is associated with hearing loss. But the good news is there are new developments happening all the time, in particular in regard to high-tech hearing aids. And there's one in the US that has shown promising signs of treating tinnitus.
It uses sound and electrical stimulation and is tailor-made to the person's individual tinnitus. And so far, 60% of those involved in the trial have reported significant reduction in symptoms.
Well, that's the latest treatment for the inside of the ear. But here's Dr. Nick with the latest if you want to decorate the outside.
When you think about ear piercings, you probably picture a trendy young person, like myself, seeking to express themselves. But ear piercings are nothing new. In fact, the earliest known example of a pierced earlobe comes from Ötzi the Iceman, a 5,000-year-old mummy discovered in an Austrian glacier. So what makes the earlobe the perfect location for an entry-level piercing? Well, the obvious explanation is it contains fewer nerves, so it's less painful to poke a hole in. But it also has no cartilage, so it has a really good blood supply. And things that bleed well, heal well. Of course, any new piercing is essentially an open wound, which means that touching the sore spot can lead to nasty infections, some of which are worse than others. One poor woman in the US was unlucky enough to get her wound infected with flesh-eating bacteria, meaning that before too long, her newly pierced lobes were no longer there. But if you get your ear piercings done by a pro and you follow their aftercare advice, there's really nothing to worry about. In fact, according to some ancient cultures in Southeast Asia, lobe piercings are a great way of warding off evil spirits. Sign me up.
So, Das, were you ever tempted to get your ears pierced?
May have come home, Jack, from a party as a 14-year-old. One of the few times my dad generally said, take that out or I'll take it out for you.
Well, these days it's on trend to have the piercings right up and down the ears,
Yes.
which is a constant conversation with my 14-year-old.
Well, my daughter's got 2 piercings in her ear. That's enough. And it's not even close to the Guinness Book of World Records. Check out 53-year-old Brazilian woman Elaine Davidson. She is close to, wait for it, 11,000 piercings.
Jack, you know, all those studs and hoops, the combined weight is 3 kilos worth of metal that's hanging off.
Well, that is a lot of extra weight to be carrying around. After the break, Heinzie tunes in to the joys of celestial singing.
Plus, how fungus could be the key to building a better future. Back after this. Well, we love an environment story here and ways to rid the planet of chemicals and plastic. The humble mushroom has already been a big hero in the world of compostable packaging, and now the amazing properties of fungus are being investigated further to see if they can be a blueprint for a better human future. Mushrooms are not plants or animals. They are their own kingdom of life, which makes them incredibly intriguing, especially for Dr. Tien Huing.
There are millions, if not billions, of mushroom species. We don't really know. And of that, we only really characterise probably 10,000. And of that, we have even less that we actually know what they do.
Of the millions of varieties of fungi, Dr. Tien and her team have just scratched the surface, studying over 30 species and how they can be used in industry.
Some of the applications that we think are amazing with fungi is its ability to break down many organic matter and even non-organics, like for instance plastics and face masks to cigarette butts. They also produce enzymes that we use for our foods and different agricultural applications and commercial applications. But our research is really looking at their ability to replace existing products that we may not even know we need, like for instance sound absorbing, sustainable packaging and fire retardant or fire fighting fungi.
Who would have thought fungi could fight fire? But that's exactly what the research shows, that mushrooms are an incredibly effective fire retardant.
They're actually produced in any container that you want. So all you need to do is put in the agricultural waste, you put a bit of fungus in there and some water, and you let it go for a few days, and then you can unmould it and let it grow out for a few weeks. And what you get is something like this.
Dr. Tien's initial plan was for these hardy, lightweight fungi blocks to replace concrete bricks. But other applications followed: wall cladding, a bendable leather-like wall covering, and even wallpaper. All materials that can be used at various stages of the build process and in critical fire ignition points in the home.
So we did a comparison with normal foam cladding that we have, this one, and you can see how it's actually burning up that way, and you can see it's charring. This is our mycelium, where you can see a little bit of the browning on the bottom, the char, but it doesn't catch for the rest of it, and that's just from the smoke. It does catch, but it doesn't catch as much in terms of the flame. But we can actually engineer it, so adding different chemicals or environments to actually encourage more of that fire fighting properties to make it more fire resistant. And what we found with ours is that when it does catch on fire, it doesn't actually produce much smoke. A lot of the fire retardant products that we use in industry are very toxic, so they have neurological impacts as well as environmental impacts. But with fungi, when they burn cleanly, which means they produce carbon dioxide and water.
The results are astounding. Fires generally burn between 100 and 800 degrees. After testing the fungi products in fires at over 1,000 degrees, not only did the materials not burn, they also self-extinguished.
There's many benefits. One is it's safer than what we have. Well, the main one, it will save lives. Second one is it's biodegradable, it's sustainable, it's really efficient, it's cheaper, so more economical, and I think it's a better way to go forwards.
When it comes to improving our health and well-being, we're often told to move more and eat well. But something we don't think about is the power of our voice, both using and feeling it. Lou, what is celestial singing?
Well, celestial singing for me is the process of basically where I step out of the way and I allow music to flow through me. And I guess you could call it from the celestial realms. I do sing in quite high ethereal voices, but it feels to me like it is coming from a celestial realm, an otherworldly place at times. I tend not to analyze it too much. And in longer sessions when I'm doing my sound journeys, when we go really deep, all different types of sounds come through. There are clicks and so, but that's pretty out there stuff. But once I'm fully out of the way, very, very different sounds come through, and they will be spoken components and also very musical components. And then on those sounds and words, I'll receive melodies, and if I'm looping, I'll also receive harmonies as well. So it could be multi-layered.
That makes me think that a performance from you may be less rehearsed and more in the moment. Would it be right that no one song is the same?
Yes, when I'm doing this celestial singing, absolutely. So I will be in the moment. I'll also be tuning into the audience or the people that I'm with, and I never know what's going to come out. Luckily, it's musical. It's not just banging some pots and pans randomly. I'm just expressing. It is musical, and I do play instruments as well at other times, and I'll create pieces through different music mediums in the moment.
Is it something you were taught, or is it an innate ability that you discovered?
I've studied singing. I've done an extensive study with singing, and I've also done yoga and meditation, and so all of those elements, meditation practices and sound healing, they've all come together to bring about a phenomenon that happens when I step out of the way. So it's kind of evolved over time.
A huge component of what you do is sharing your gift with other people. Why share celestial singing?
Because I'm just guided to do it, and I believe that in sharing it with other people, it's evolved into what it is now. So initially, I started off with chanting and doing mantra and chanting in kirtan, and then over time, it's quite a structured practice, and so people were coming to chant, and I was chanting with other people, but going, I want to rock out, I want to do this, to sing really high and be really big and loud, and that's not done in that world. So the doorway, I believe, was opened by chanting, and chanting in Sanskrit mantra, and doing spiritual music, for want of a better term, New Age music. Keep it coming, so rolling ooh. And this is a very sculpted, laser-focused ooh sound. The workshops that I'm doing currently are called Singing for Serenity. So I'm wanting to help people and encourage them to give themselves permission to sing and to know that their voice is beautiful and can be strengthened and can be heard, and to teach them about how sound, their own people's own sound, even the simple hum, can really calm the nervous system down. Just really hearing your own voice, and also hearing
The age-old question, can we all sing?
I believe that we can, yes. And that's my new found sort of mission, is that I believe everybody has the potential to sing like a total diva. There's so much incredible information about tongue position, how the mouth goes, certain amazing exercises that you can do. So with the right information, if a person wishes to put in the time, I believe everyone can make beautiful sounds. And if you do this every day for a month, you're going to notice a massive difference in your singing. That's just something to play with in your own time.
I want to talk about the healing benefits of people experiencing these workshops. What do you see in real life practice?
I see people gaining confidence. If they're doing a meditation practice and they add sound to that, they go, oh, I can actually have a quiet mind. They're more connected to music, more connected to themselves, so especially the physical body, in the way that yoga does that. If you're lying down on your yoga mat and the teacher says, focus within. And I think it helps people just to relax and kind of lighten up. There's a lot of fun in singing, and it brings laughter, it brings joy, and it's a very fast-track way to feeling good, basically.
Now, Nick, one of your many passions is supporting people to age in the healthiest possible way, particularly when it comes to our grey matter. We know staying sharp for as long as possible is incredibly important.
Well, it's so important, Das, because unlike some of the other organs, you can't just swap this out when it goes wrong. And there are so many things that we can do to keep the brain healthy.
Well, you are a walking, talking example of how exercise and trying new things is great for the body and the brain, like really simple things like using the non-dominant hand instead of your dominant hand to do easy things like cleaning your teeth.
Not so easy sometimes.
Maybe not.
But I'm not alone, Joe. The evidence for this just keeps mounting. And this time, it's the lovely, gentle art of Tai Chi. Researchers say that doing regular Tai Chi could add years to our brain health, as well as reducing the decline into dementia by years.
That's a great reason to invest in your own exercise and health on that front. And we know that when you stay healthy yourself, it gives the opportunity, Joe, to be able to support others in a meaningful way. And you're about to share what is one of the great acts of love from someone to another.
Absolutely. Melbourne mum Claire Distratus gave her little boy Jake the greatest gift of all when she risked her own life to save his.
Hey Zombie, do you want to make extra pocket money? Dad asked me.
I was terrified I was going to lose my son because that was a reality that could happen. And once they told us that he needed a transplant and he'd been put on life support and he was only allowed to be on life support for 5 days. It was fast.
What's in it for me, I asked. I wanted to make sure the deal was going to be worth it.
You hear these stories where kids fall sick and then they don't survive, and I thought that was going to be our son.
Just remember to come back for dinner, Dad said.
When Jake fell sick, we initially thought it was gastro because gastro was going around his school.
Yes, please.
A day after that initial vomit and high fever, his eyes turned yellow. And I knew automatically that when your eyes turn yellow and your skin turns yellow, that it's something to do with your liver. So when we were initially taken to hospital, his tests were on the lower side with his liver function, and then they got higher every single day. He turned more yellow, which was the scariest part because I expected him to regain some colour in his face, but he didn't at all. So he had all the symptoms of gastro, but it ended up being parvovirus, the human strain of parvovirus, which kindergartens and schools call slap cheek because you get really red, rosy cheeks. It wasn't necessarily the parvovirus's fault that Jake's liver failed, but more his body's response to the virus. So his immune system was so heightened by fighting off the parvovirus that once it fought off the parvovirus, it turned on his liver. When I told his liver doctor and nurses at the Royal Children's that I was the same blood group as Jake and that I wanted to move forward with being a donor, their eyes lit up and they were so happy that they could send me on for further testing. At that point, Jake was at the top of all the transplant lists across New Zealand and Australia. He was at the top. We could not get a liver that was going to be ideal for him, and that's when they moved forward with me because they found out that they could take the correct portion from my liver and give to him. I met with the surgeon and he handed me a pamphlet of all the outcomes that can happen. 1 in 200 don't survive the surgery and 1 in 4 have major complications. That did not bother me at all. It did not scare me. It did not put me off. We had to do a lot of rigorous testing to find out that it was going to be okay, and it ended up being perfect.
I kept vomiting and stuff. I was just sitting in bed watching on my iPad, and I had lots of vomit bags near me. And then they gave me something to go to sleep, or knock me out or something. And then they did the surgery. Yeah.
He was on life support, so it was the morning of the surgery. I went in to see him and say goodbye. And I grabbed his hand and I said, Mummy's going to go and give you something really important now. And I just said goodbye to him and I kissed him on the hand. I was in ICU in a separate hospital, and Jake was in ICU at the Royal Children's. The nurses would call the ICU at Royal Children's to ask how Jake was going and then come back and tell me how he was, and they said he was doing really, really well. I knew nothing about organ donation, and I feel really bad in saying that I knew nothing about organ donation. I never knew that you could be a living donor for your liver. I knew that you could donate a kidney and be a living donor, but I didn't know that you could take a piece of liver and it regenerate. The liver is amazing. It does amazing things. It can heal itself. But my liver has regenerated since, and the liver inside Jake has grown. I had no idea that you could do this, and modern medicine allows us to move forward with these kind of surgeries. I think he deserves to be here. It's just amazing. He's such a great kid. He really is. And for a 6-year-old to go through what he went through, and he smiles every single day, and every single day I get to wake up to him smiling and telling me how much he loves me, and I just think that I'm lucky to have a son like him. I am incredibly lucky to have such a strong boy. Good job.
Well, it's the height of summer, and we all know the importance of keeping cool and keeping ourselves and our kids out of the sun on those 30+ degree days. But inside a car, temperatures can be as much as 20 to 30 degrees hotter. It's a literal furnace, prompting new warnings about never leaving kids in cars.
Children being left in hot cars in Australia is a really big issue. Each year, 5,000 or more children are rescued by emergency services from their vehicle because they have been left unattended in a hot car. On a hot summer's day, a car's temperature will rise to be 20, 30 or 40 degrees hotter than the day outside. So that would mean on a typical Aussie summer's day of 30 degrees in the shade, that car will quickly rise towards 40, 50, 60 or even 70 degrees in heat. Children become very rapidly dangerously hot. They become very rapidly dehydrated, and the combination of heat stress and dehydration can, even within minutes, bring a child to the point of being unconscious and to even dying. Whenever a child is brought to the hospital in a state of heat stress and dehydration, it's so upsetting. It's so upsetting because the parent is often terribly upset and distressed by what has happened, which is something that there was no intent behind this. There's a group of parents who are making misguided decisions that justify in their minds leaving a child in a car in that moment. For example, I'm only gone for a few minutes. Most of the dangerous heat rise happens in the first 5 minutes, so that doesn't protect them. It might be, but I've parked the car in the shade. Parking a car in the shade does not stop the car achieving these dangerous levels of heat. It might be, I've wound the window down a few centimetres. No, people have tested that scientifically, and winding the window down does not reduce the amount of heat that is dangerously accumulated in the car, hurting the child, risking their life. And then there's another group of parents we're also really wanting to reach out to, and these are the distracted and exhausted parents. This is the parent that goes to do their shopping, having forgotten that the child was even in the car. This is not to blame a parent in that moment. This is to fully understand the pressures and exhaustions and distractions on a parent in that moment. And so there's a very real need to create behaviours that remind them that the fact that they have to take their baby with them. Many parents have the habit of leaving something on the front seat. Some people have a sign or some other signal on their dashboard which reminds them that they have a baby in the car with them. We need people to look before they leave. These are things that really help and have been shown to increase the safety of children who would otherwise be left in a hot car.
Hey, Jack, what about this for some technology? The BYD Dolphin hatchback smart cars actually got a built-in child detection sensor that can turn on the air conditioning and sound an alarm if a child's been left in a car. Now, that is technology at its best for me.
What fantastic peace of mind, and just in time for a long, hot Aussie summer. I can't think of a better idea. Up next, the dogs who love a good book.
Duchenne muscular dystrophy, in short, is a muscle wasting condition. Kids are normally diagnosed between the ages of 3 to 5, confined in a wheelchair between 7 and 12, and most will not live past their early to mid-20s. They used to live up until the early to mid-teens, so we have made a lot of advancements, and the way we're going, hopefully, it will continue to surpass, and hopefully one day I can tell you early to mid-30s and so on. My son Emilio was diagnosed 2 days short of his second birthday. And the older he gets, obviously, the harder the days become. He's very resilient, just like many of our boys, they're very resilient. And instead of us reassuring them it's going to be okay, they're reassuring us. But the sad reality for our boys and my son Emilio is they're watching the world surpass them. These kids need a purpose. And it's important that the community and the educational department help our children because they already feel behind the 8 ball. I want to walk for those kids who can't walk. We're walking for you. We're now also walking in memory and honour of those we've lost along the way because they've set the journey, they've set the path, and we don't want their death to go in vain. We're probably going to walk over 120 kilometres over 6 days, and the purpose of our walk is to go visit the boys in their schools. And we ask the family and friends when we get to the schools to walk them in, to do a guard of honour, make them feel special, but more importantly, the walk carries a very, very important message to all children. And that message is about inclusion. It's so important, it doesn't matter what the condition is, not just Duchenne. Any child with a disability, any child. Inclusion is key. For a mammoth organisation like Chemist Warehouse to take on a rare disease and a rare charity, they're always there. Having them on our side has been nothing short of, I want to tell you, phenomenal.
It's no secret that we are dog mad here on the House of Wellness. Our mutt mates are a total wellbeing booster for us, which is why it's so important that we look after them in return. So Maisie, it's time to listen up because this next story really is just for you.
Today we'll be reading Dr. Dog Kids. You ready? This is the Gumboil family. Milo, come!
No, you're not seeing things. Eliza is reading a story to a group of dogs, an activity that's shown to have a calming effect on our canine pals.
So we think reading to your dog is a really important way to build connection between yourself and your pet.
These are eggs laid by insects called lice. This is one, they live in your hair.
And it's also a way to help the dog to calm down if it's in a state of high arousal. We'll use reading to the dogs to signal to them that it's time to stop the game and have 10, 20, 30 minutes to just relax. Similar to how you might have nap time for children in a childcare.
It's well documented that for kids who struggle with literacy, reading out loud to dogs has a positive effect on their confidence and their reading skills.
The dog is a non-judgmental pair of ears. So if you stutter or misstep or make a mistake, it's just going to keep looking at you with the same loving puppy dog eyes.
The same principle applies to dogs. Not that they'll ever learn to read, but a passive and calm environment can help dogs regulate their behaviour.
They really pick up the level of energy that you're putting out there. Even though they mightn't understand the exact words that you're saying, they'll definitely be able to tell the difference in stress level if you're having a call about work on the phone versus if you're picking up one of your favourite books and reading a passage to them.
Sam Lee has integrated regular story time into his doggy daycare business after success with his own dog.
I've been doing it myself with my dog for many years, and I've found that it's had great benefits for helping Earl to, I guess, calm down. I think it can be beneficial to structure it at the same time every day, potentially after a walk or after exercise where the dog has to adjust from a level of high energy to a level of low energy.
Baby Gumboil did not wash his hands after going to the toilet. He let other children stick their fingers up his nose.
For some dogs, the simple act of reading is giving the dog attention, and that's reward enough itself. For other pets, you might need to introduce some treats.
You gotta sit.
Definitely keep it realistic for the energy levels that your dog has and its impulse control when you start this process. And then over time, you should find that you'll be able to increase the amount of time that the dog is able to control its impulses and that you can read to it for. It's a great chance to build that relationship and put some time aside. It's not just important for the dog building its relationship with the owner, but it's also really important for you building that relationship with your pet.
There's nothing that ignites the taste buds more than a finely cooked tenderloin. It's a blank canvas primed to pair with hearty vegetables, a summer salad, or a corn and mango salsa. For the salsa, I'm finely chopping everything. Onions, corn, cherry tomatoes, avocado and garlic. Loads of healthy fats. I have fond memories of a summer swim followed by devouring mango straight from the skin. It will really add that summer freshness to this salsa. The contrast of textures and flavours goes so perfectly with the succulent fillet. After a gentle toss, I'm leaving the salsa to marinate in all those divine flavours, and I'm going to focus on the fillet. The cut I've chosen is an eye fillet. It's lean, it's tender for that melt in your mouth moment. Plus, it's a tasty way to consume zinc and protein, both essential in a balanced diet. Some people consider sauce on steak the ultimate sin, but beef this good, you don't want to lather it in anything but the basics: salt, pepper and good quality extra virgin olive oil. Coriander is optional, of course. It can be quite strong, so you might just want to be a little gentle when adding it. But for me, it can never be too much. Cover the eye fillet in the mixture while the pan heats up. And don't have the pan too hot. Medium heat is ideal. I love medium rare, so 2 to 3 minutes each side will do the trick. This is what I call a beautiful marriage. The juicy and tender texture of the beef perfectly complement the light and tangy flavours of the salsa. A dish for all year round.
Before the break, Heinzie discovered the power of reading bedtime stories to pooches. Too cute.
I love that.
So cute. But it turns out it's not just about the kids feeling confident and comfortable reading aloud to the dogs. It's actually good to be reading bedtime stories to the pups as well.
Now, we know that in the US, they tend to take things to the extreme. In the western state of Oregon, a public library over there has introduced a trio of cats with a twist.
Yes, because these cats are actually robot cats, but they're very lifelike. They have fur and they meow, and you can take them home just like you would a book.
I love this. Would you borrow a robot cat for the night?
Well, I think
Gus?
Joe, it starts with a robo cat. You might end up with an artificial wife at some stage. Who knows?
That conversation's gone, not where I thought it would. No, I think, though, for me, I'll leave the cats in the library. But that is a very sweet story inspired by technology. And our next story is even sweeter, delivered straight from nature.
Manuka honey is already known for its antimicrobial, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. It can be used as a remedy for coughs and colds or applied directly to a wound for faster healing. This is all thanks to a naturally occurring compound found exclusively in Manuka honey, methylglyoxal or MGO. But a recent consumer perception trial by Manuka Health also uncovered its beauty benefits because radiant glowing skin on the outside starts on the inside. The consumer perception trials verified that taking 1 spoonful of Manuka Health MGO 400 plus Manuka honey or higher every day for at least 28 days can transform the radiance of your skin. 88% of participants felt their skin looked healthier, was less inflamed and had fewer breakouts. Before you take on the 28-day challenge, just remember, not all Manuka honey is created equal. Manuka Health's Manuka honey comes from New Zealand, which matters because NZ Manuka is the only honey that's been extensively researched and recognised by experts for its natural benefits. The purity and MGO potency of their honey is guaranteed, and they've partnered with Trust Code so every jar can be traced back to its beekeeper by scanning the QR code. With so many health benefits, it's easy to forget the most important thing. It's delicious. I don't think there's a tastier way to care for your skin.
Iron, it's an essential mineral that all of us need. It plays a critical role in so many different metabolic processes. It supports things like the transport of oxygen through the body, and that is absolutely essential for healthy energy levels as well. It also contributes to a good immune system and, of course, cognitive function. Despite its importance, there are lots of Aussies out there that actually suffer from iron deficiency. Now, this is when either the requirement or the loss exceeds the absorption. That can happen if you're pregnant, through your monthly menstrual cycle, intense exercise, or if you're following a vegan or vegetarian diet that maybe might not be balanced enough. Deficiency symptoms typically are lots of fatigue, and in serious cases, you can often feel dizzy, or you might notice that your skin is a little paler than normal. As a foodie, I can assure you that iron is abundant in lots of different foods. You've got beef, chicken, fish, even kangaroo. And if you're vegan or vegetarian, foods like broccoli, whole grains, legumes are an excellent source. But you can also turn to supplementation, looking for one that is highly bioavailable, gentle on the gut and on the digestive system, but it has added vitamins such as B2, B3 and B6. Liquid iron supplements may be absorbed quicker than tablets, plus there's also options for those who are gluten-free. We all know the phrase pumping iron or striking when the iron's hot, but without enough of the mineral iron in our lives, these tasks, they become a little bit difficult. A doctor can diagnose an iron deficiency through a simple blood test. If you're not feeling well or you're just simply not looking your best, help is available. It's just up to us to take it.
So whether you love it or loathe it, Valentine's Day is closing in upon us. Now, let me ask this heart-related question to the doctor of the group. That's you, Nick, by the way. Can you die from a broken heart?
A great question, Das. Well, there is a condition called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, which is also known as broken heart syndrome. And it's more common in you women, and it can be triggered by severe emotional stress. But the good thing is you normally get better within a month or two.
And is laughter good for the heart?
The good answer to that one is yes, laughter is great for the heart because it opens up the blood vessels, reduces stress hormones, brings blood pressure down, and it's physical exercise. So scientifically proven to be good for you.
So laughter really is the best medicine. But tell me, is chocolate good for your heart then?
Well, a small amount of dark chocolate, maybe yes, but a whole bar of milk, nah.
Okay.
Well, I like this, Nick. Whatever you're planning for Valentine's Day, good laugh and a bit of chocolate, you probably can't go too far wrong. That's all we've got time for today.
Great to see everybody, as always. Tune into House of Wellness Radio with Gerald Quigley and Luke Hines every Sunday.
And check out the latest House of Wellness lift out with this very show on the cover.
Thank you, Jack, Nick and Joe Stanley. Thanks to our friends at Chemist Warehouse. We'll see you next time on the House of Wellness.